Well, good morning. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to do this while I'm up here and 6 feet away from everybody. We're here about protecting the post office. Maybe never in the history of our country has the post office been so important. And I want to make about 3 points, and that's really about it. I believe this is outrageous for the administration to stand in the way of the delivery of the mail for the people of America for several reasons. Number one, keeping our seniors from getting their prescription medicine. Unbelievable that they would stand in the way of that important delivery. Keeping our overseas troops from having the opportunity to potentially vote in this election at all for president is unbelievable. And not having a safe way to vote during a pandemic crisis is unconscionable. But that's where we are. The administration has stated clearly that they don't have confidence in the post office. Well, I do, and I know Representative Castor does, and these other people that you'll hear from today. Our Postal Service has always delivered the service. Now it's more important than ever. And with that, I want to turn it over to my great colleague and dear friend, Representative Kathy Castor.
Well, thank you, Congressman Crist. I can see you've got your virtual boxing gloves on this morning, because we have a fight on our hands. All across the Tampa Bay area in this country, Americans are alarmed that the Trump administration and the new Postmaster General are undermining and weakening the United States Postal Service. You know, our neighbors rely on the U.S. mail to receive their medicine, to conduct their businesses, and yes, to vote safely this year. We are in the midst of a global pandemic, a global health crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic is the most unprecedented health crisis that we've ever lived through. So it's vitally important that at this time we have a strong and secure United States Postal Service. And I've heard directly from folks across my district in Tampa that they have seen their mail slowed. I've heard from constituents in New Tampa, small business owners, that it's been very difficult to get the supplies they rely on to run their small business. I heard from another constituent who is quarantined out of state and did not receive their vote by mail ballot in time to vote in today's primary. I've heard from other neighbors who have had trouble getting their medicine on time. So here's what's going on. A few months ago, President Trump installed one of his mega donors as Postmaster General of the U.S. Postal Service. They commenced a scheme to remove sorting machines, to remove mailboxes, to discount overtime. In this time of a flood, we know that there's going to be a flood of vote by mail. At the same time, the president started complaining about vote by mail ballots. He's scared. He's behind. But this is horrendous, because what he's doing is he's stoking fear in vote by mail. And when he does that, he undermines our democracy. It strikes right at the heart of who we are as Americans. And I'm afraid if this continues, he will successfully disenfranchise many Americans. We're not going to let that happen. Today in the United States House of Representatives, we're going to introduce a bill that we will be co-sponsoring that will prohibit them from removing mailboxes during this global health crisis, prevent them from removing those sorting machines. It will ensure that we guarantee the current postal standards that are premier. We are going to make sure that those vote by mail ballots have a first-class stamp on it. So there is no delay. You can rely that your vote is going to be counted and that your voice is going to be heard. I'm going to fight to protect all of my neighbors who rely on the U.S. mail, and we have a message for President Trump. Don't mess with the USPS.
Well, you can see my colleague is great. God bless you, Kathy. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Now I want to introduce Mr. Al Friedman. He is the state president of the National Letter Carriers. Al.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming out on this very important occasion. With being employed with the Postal Service for over 40 years, I never thought I'd see a crisis like we have today. And I want to let you know our reputation is on the line because we are proud U.S. postal employees. We have a reputation that you can count on us to deliver every day to 160 million mailboxes across this country. And now you've come in and you've affected us. I look at us as a messenger. You put mail out, we process it, we deliver it. We pick up mail, we process it, we deliver it. What is the old saying? Don't kill the messenger. If you have a problem with the Postal Service, have the problem with that. If it's vote by mail, then go after the states that you think shouldn't be voting by mail. But to undermine the USPS by starting off with no overtime in the middle of a pandemic. We have over 20% of our employees, just like the rest of the world and just like Florida in this epicenter. 20% of our employees are out under quarantine or out having the virus. We deliver every day. We are essential. And those people that are out cause us to need overtime to deliver your mail on time every day without delay. No overtime. How do we get those routes covered? When you look at what we do, and we talked about, and Kathy Castor and also Congressman Crist talked about medications. Last year we delivered 1.2 billion medications to the elderly. Not only that, but we deliver 99% of the VA medications to veterans, disabled veterans. I'm a disabled veteran. I get medication from the VA. I count on that because I can't always make it down to the VA pharmacy to pick it up. It's just as easy. But that's a service to America. And when you want to come in now and you want to attack our service, 8 years running the most trusted government agency that is out there, we have a problem with this. Don't make the post office a political football. We are here to serve America. When they say that we cannot deliver all these ballots, who delivered the census? We, in April, delivered 160 million addresses across America, and we delivered over 500 million postcards and census, which is just as important to a lot of communities. They also set up your districts, your federal funding. We did that within the month of April. Nobody questioned it. Now, I'll end with this. Those same politicians that say there's a problem with the post office, they'll be mailing their political ballots out in the next 30 days, and we'll be putting it in every mailbox that they mail it to. I need your support, and I need you to contact your senators, Rubio and Scott, and tell them when this bill gets to the Senate, we're counting on them to save America's post office. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce Natasha Patterson. Natasha is the state president of the Rural Carriers Association. Natasha.
Good morning, everyone. The Florida Rural Letter Carriers Association would like to thank Representative Crist and Representative Castor for all their unwavering support of America's Postal Service and for recognizing that rural letter carriers, amongst others, have provided essential services at great risk to themselves during the COVID-19 pandemic. The 10,000 men and women of the Rural Letter Carriers Association in Florida are ordinary people. We're parents, we're grandparents, we are veterans, we are young, we are middle-aged workers. We are ordinary people delivering mail in extraordinary times. Rural letter carriers are unique in the service that they provide to this country. They're considered a post office on wheels. They sell stamps to their customers. They mail packages for their customers. They also obtain money orders and bring them to their customer's door. You will often find them delivering mail in their own vehicles on unpaven roads, down roads that you never knew existed, and some that don't officially exist. But there is an emergency facing families in rural towns across America where access to health care is limited. Broadband does not exist, and receiving mail is essential. The Postal Service is critical to rural areas, small towns, the elderly, military veterans, and most American companies, which are often small to medium size and include hundreds of millions of home-based businesses. Households and businesses depend on the reliable receipt of checks and payments. Indeed, billions of payments go through the mail stream each year. The USPS also supports the healthcare system by handling 4 million pieces of prescription mail every single day, 6 days a week. In one day's time, the post office delivers to 160 million addresses in this country. And they do it while processing 470 million pieces of mail per day. The Postal Service is an essential role in America. It's the hub of a $1.7 trillion mailing industry that, don't forget, supports 7 million private sector workers. Throughout this crisis, there's one thing that hasn't changed: the commitment of the men and women of the United States Postal Service. They serve homes and businesses across America, keeping them in touch with their loved ones that they're not able to see during the pandemic. They keep them supplied with vital necessities unobtainable by any other means. These workers are essential employees as defined by the federal government, and they are not immune to the pandemic. Over 8,600 postal workers have tested positive for COVID-19, and unfortunately, 80 of them did not survive. We must ensure postal workers will continue to be paid and the service is not interrupted so that they can carry out their vital roles in America. Americans have not seen any interruption in mail delivery during the pandemic, but that could change if Congress doesn't give the Postal Service much needed relief. People often ask, how can I help? I implore you, please contact your senators, contact Rick Scott, contact Marco Rubio. Tell them to support a stimulus relief bill for the Postal Service that includes a public service appropriation to the agency to alleviate the strain caused by the pandemic. Tell them how much the mail means to you, and tell them how you would be affected if the service was reduced for you. If something isn't done now, millions of homes and businesses will be cut off from an essential service that keeps them connected and thriving, and we cannot let that happen. Thank you very much.
And finally, I'd like to introduce Michael Searle. Michael is the president of the American Postal Workers Union. Michael?
Thank you all. It is so nice when you get to take your mask off, huh? My name is Mike Searle. I am the president of the Tampa area local American Postal Workers Union here across the bay in Tampa. In LaJoy's first month as postmaster, he rolled out plans to curtail the mail, delay the mail. He's directed managers to slow the mail service, reduce hours, remove processing machines, and install an overall reduction in work hours. He's made changes to the transportation of mail and cuts to customer service. The culture of the Postal Service and the postal worker is to get mail and packages moved. It's in the DNA of a postal employee. It's what they've dedicated their career to do, which is moving the mail. Sometimes that means with overtime, the use of part-time employees, or hiring additional full-time employees. Some customers are already feeling the impacts of the negative effects that these changes have started with delays. Postal workers and the American Postal Workers Union oppose any actions that slow down the mail and undermine the public postal service Postal workers are firm in our commitment to serving the public. We treat the mail as if it is our own. The frontline essential work of postal workers in these challenging and dangerous times demonstrates and underscores the dedication of postal workers. We are dedicated to our mission of providing prompt, reliable, efficient postal service, delivering mail to 160 million addresses every day, including medicine, financial transactions, retirement checks, census forms, magazines, catalogs, and we all know voter information and even mail-in ballots. USPS has proven to be invaluable during the pandemic. Most people think that the Postal Service regularly relies on tax dollars for its operations. The fact is that the U.S. Postal Service carries out its mission of universal service obligations to the United States people, running only on postage and postal services revenues. The immediate financial crisis facing USPS has been caused by the pandemic and the related economic downturn. That's why postal workers are united in urging Congress to pass the $25 billion emergency funding for COVID relief for the United States Postal Service. In a year when a pandemic has gripped the nation, an election year, the year the census is distributed through the mail, we need to maintain a strong and viable postal service. It needs to be reliable. This is not a time to be cutting back. It is not the United States postal business, it is the United States Postal Service, and we deliver for you. Thank you.
Kathy, if you'll join me, please. She reminded me to remind you that the House of Representatives will be voting on this this Saturday. And as she said, we're co-sponsoring it together. So if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer.
Yes, I heard, so Sunday the U.S. Postal Service said they were not going to remove any more mailboxes until after November. You must be heartened to hear that.
Very much so. You know, we want the Postal Service to have the opportunity to serve the people. And, you know, when you first heard about some of these boxes being removed, it was unconscionable to hear that. So I was very heartened to hear that.
Congressman, is it too late? Have too many sorting machines been removed already from the USPS in time to get those machines back into the post office for the November general election?
Well, I certainly hope it's not too late. That's why we're going to Washington Saturday. That's the whole point of passing this bill. And as many of the speakers said, encourage our senators to have the Senate take up the bill so we can get it on the president's desk. Now lately he's been backpedaling a little bit. Maybe he's feeling the pressure of what's going on. And if that's the case, then he should sign this bill as soon as it hits his desk.
Do you believe you would have a veto-proof majority in both the House and the Senate?
I absolutely do. We've all heard from our constituents. Senators have too. And again this morning they did.
Is there anyone here who can tell us how many sorting machines have been removed in the Tampa Bay area, whether that would be our representatives here or the folks with the union?
I believe Michael can. I want to remind you of something I mentioned earlier, talking about our military overseas. That's almost 200,000 people. That would be outrageous to have that come to pass, so I hope it doesn't. Michael?
Remember, I represent the Tampa area, and I don't speak for the Postal Service. In Tampa, they have not been removing machines. From what I've been told by my colleagues in Orlando and in St. Petersburg, there haven't been machines moved either. But the memo that was sent out was for 671 processing machines. And to give you an idea of what 671 processing machines can do in a day, that's almost 600 million pieces of mail that can be processed on that many pieces of machinery. There was the removal of machines prior to this new postmaster. As we all know, first-class mail has declined through the years, and we expect it to continue to decline. So there already was a measured effort to remove some equipment in some cases, but that's separate from the 671 that the new postmaster wants cut out across the board.
Do you believe some of that number, sorry, you're speaking of that number, sir, as if it's in the future, the 671. Do you believe that number includes some of the machines here in the Tampa Bay area?
No, I represent the Tampa area across the bay. No processing machines have been removed as of the new postmaster. No, sir.
What about mailboxes?
I spoke with our maintenance department yesterday. No blue boxes. We call them blue boxes. No blue boxes have been pulled off the street in the area I represent, in the Tampa area.
So let's keep it that way.
But we do have delayed mail.
Are they selling the machines?
stuff we pick off the street.
He asked if they were
We
selling.
don't have those trucks anymore. The transportation is not.
I can't answer for the Postal Service, but I would assume they salvage them in some fashion.
Thank you all very much for coming. God bless you. And don't forget to vote today, primary day.